Welcome to Unexpectedly Successful. Join us to hear the raw and genuine stories of women founders who have created their own pathways to possibilities. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Unexpectedly Successful, the podcast. Griselda Martinez here, your host, as always excited to be here. Today, we're going to learn about this incredible story of resilience when Yadira is telling us about how she went from being an undocumented immigrant to now owning her own construction company, being a real estate person, and an investor flipping homes. How did she do all of that? Join us in this conversation. It is my very honor to have our guest speaker for today, Yadira Chavez. Yadira is the founder of two different businesses. The first one is Strong Rock Contractors. They specialize in commercial and residential construction. And the second one is R1 of Las Cruces. And this specializes in real estate for residential properties. Yadira, welcome to our podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you for inviting me. Very good. Thank you.
Yadira, please tell us in a little bit about your background. What does it mean to be Yadira Chavez? Tell us about you from that perspective.
Well, I've been a single mom, and I had my first kid since I was 18. So I had to take care of her. I had to support her on my own. So I started, basically, it's working hard. That's how I can.
Working hard.
Working very hard all the time. But now I'm starting to enjoy life. After so many years of working hard, it does give you your rewards. You do get rewards, but I had to work hard, and I started at a very young age that I had to do it on my own. So it's basically working hard. That's how I can define and think of myself.
Awesome. So in addition to working hard and being a mom from an early age, what else is Yadira? Tell us a little bit more about you from the deeper places of your heart.
Okay. Well, I do think of myself, when I think about me, it's, I'm a very hard worker. My kids say that I am a workaholic. Because I enjoy to work. It's not like it's miserable for me to work. I enjoy working. I enjoy having projects. So that's one. But I also love my family. I enjoy being with my kids. So I do consider myself a good mom. I hope my kids can say the same thing, because I was raised without a family. So not until I had about 7 or 8 years, that's when we had a family. But all my childhood, I had no family. So I was always like in different houses. I never had a steady place. So that's why I work hard, so that my family, my kids can have a house, a home, and stability. Because I grew up with that.
Wow.
So that's why I want to say that I try to be a good mom. That's my main goal, and to have my family united.
Wow. We started with the heavy stuff here. So tell us about what you just said. You said that you did not have a steady place to live, and not until it was later in your childhood was that possible. Tell us about your personal story, Yadira.
I was born in Mexico, and I lived in Mexico until I was like 8 or 9 years. So my mom was very young as well, and we didn't really have a family. My mom came to Juarez from Chihuahua. So all my family is from Chihuahua. My mom's, she just came to work to Juarez. She didn't have a babysitter. So we were always staying with friends, family. I don't remember having a house when I was young. So, it was always like with friends. And we obviously, when you're not part of the family, even with family, you go through a lot. There's several different type of abuses that you receive. That's why it's for me, it's very important that my kids don't have a healthy child. That they don't have to go through what I went through. So that's why I'm trying to open the way for them. That way they don't have to struggle.
Yadira, as a person, what have been the most defining moments for you in your life? You mentioned moving from Chihuahua to Juarez and then being with friends and other people while you were a child. What moments have been defining in your life, Yadira?
Well, like I told you, I'm a single mom. Being pregnant at 18 on your own. I was already living in the United States. Another thing is that was one of the hardest ones, but at the same time, it was motivating because I think my daughter and pushed me to be successful, to work harder because I knew I had to support her. My parents were very, they don't have the means and they didn't. My dad worked at a farm. He was always getting the minimum wage. So we would always have like a house after my mom got married to my dad. It's my stepdad, but it's like my dad. That when we finally had a family and we were raised like in puberty. My dad, didn't know English. My mom didn't know English. So, going to school wasn't easy. Middle school and high school was, they're normal. But after that, I always wanted to have a career. And that dream was like, I didn't know I couldn't go to school because, scholarships. Another thing is that I wasn't legal in this, country. So it was very hard. It's very hard for somebody that is undocumented, to get a scholarship. Of course, my parents couldn't afford college, so I didn't go to college because of that reason. And that's why like I told you, I'm trying to set the way for my kids that they don't go to what I went through.
So, Yadira, you mentioned that you grew up in poverty, that your mom moved from Chihuahua to Juarez. What year was it when you all came to the U.S.?
It was in 1986.
1986. And then you didn't speak the language, so that transition, going to school and having to understand a different system, different language, that was, I'm sure, quite an experience. And then you also mentioned that you were undocumented. So how was that for Yadira? Then now connecting it to Yadira wanting to have a career, but not having the ability to go to college. What happened in that intersection?
Well, at the beginning, because it was always my dream to have a career. But after when I was in high school, that I found out that I couldn't go to college, that was devastating to me. So I actually dropped out of high school, and that's when I got pregnant. So I saw my life going downhill. Like I told you, when I got pregnant, that after I had my kid, that gave me the strength to keep up. And I finally, I got over the fact that I wasn't going to go to college, so I had to find another way of making it happen.
You said you had to find another way to make it happen.
Yes.
Then tell us what happened after that.
So without, like I told you, undocumented, that was even harder because it's not like you can go apply to a job. So I had to find other ways. And all I knew was what my dad was working on, which were the fields. So that's where I started picking up chili, onions, lettuce. I had to do all that hard labor work.
Wow.
And after that, I started cleaning houses. So anything that I could get paid cash, I could do. So that's where I started. I started from the fields, cleaning houses. Later on, I went and worked for a construction company. And that's where I started getting and acquiring my construction experience. That's when I started the construction company. But after many years of working for somebody else in different companies.
So when you say many years, how many years was that? You working in the fields, Yadira, you working, cleaning houses, and then the time working in that construction company. What was the time range there?
It was about maybe, I want to say 5 years. And that's how I got my experience. And remember, I was only like 18, 19. I was in my prime 20s. So I was so ashamed of, now I take pride in what I used to work. But before it was so embarrassing for me because I wanted to be all nice and clean. And in that type of work, you're always dirty. You always stink. And it's not like us. Like you can go show up, I work at the fields when you're only 20. You're like in your prime 20s, you want to be looking nice. I couldn't do my nails, like things like that. It was, I go back and I remember it was kind of embarrassing, like for me to tell my friends that I was working there. Usually I wouldn't tell them because it was embarrassing. Now I see it like, that made me through, that made me mature because of what I went through. I am who I am now.
So Yadira, you said that, wow, let me just take a moment of sucking that in. Because of what you went through, you are who you are right now. Okay. So you started working at a construction company. Then what happened? You were there for how long? What was it like? Tell us about that experience. I mean, as a woman, that's a very unusual path for a female. So tell us about that.
So let me tell you how it started. It was funny because, like I told you, I used to work in everything and whoever gave me employment without paying me cash, basically, because I didn't know anything. So I used to work for this restaurant, and they were like bad. They were bad. They never had the groceries. It was a drive-through, and they would order food, and I'm like, sorry, we don't have that. Sorry, we don't have that. So it got to the point like we were open, but we couldn't sell anything because we didn't do anything. It was just the chef and me. Because when I got to know my boss, the construction company, he knew that they closed the restaurant, and then he contacted me. And he said, "Do you want to work for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, definitely, I want to work for you." And he said, "Okay, then you can come over." And then I go work, and then I work the whole week. And then on Friday, he tells me, "Okay, let me have your social and your papers." And I'm like I have to tell him. Yeah, so I told him my condition, my status, and then he said, "Oh, we have to do something about that." Okay. So on Monday, he never called me, he never told me anything. So I was on my way to the fields, and he said, "Where are you?" He called me and he said, "Where are you?" I'm on my way to the fields. He said, like, "You're not coming to work?" I'm like, "Well, you never told me anything." He said, "No, you can come." So that he gave me the opportunity. And for me, it was like I told you, I was on my prime 20s. And then I always was praying, like, I wanted to have like a decent job, according to me, like where I don't have to be all dirty and like to have just a decent job. Well, yes. I'm not saying that working on the fields is not decent. I just wanted to have like an hourly paid job or office hours, something like that. So that's when I started working for that company. And to me, it was an answer to my prayers because I wanted to have like more like a career type of job. And at the beginning in construction, there wasn't really a position for me. So I would be just watching the trucks, taking cement to the guys, whatever I was needing. I used to run the errands for them, and wherever I was needed, I was there. So that's how I started in construction. Later on, this company started growing and growing, and at the end, they had like 50 employees. It was a construction company with 50 employees. They had a batch plant, a cement batch plant. So they had like another 20 truckers. Bottom line, after 5 years, after maybe 2 years of working in construction, I ended up being the boss of everybody. Everybody was under me. It was my boss, and then it was me. I had a new truck. I had a cell phone. It was a big deal for me because it was like, wow. Remember, I'm undocumented, no school, no nothing, and I was being the boss. But let me tell you, it wasn't nice because it's like I would go in at the time I wanted to, but I would work more than everybody. In 5 years, I only missed 1 day, and that was because my mom got heart open surgery. But in 5 years, I only missed. I was super responsible, so I ended up being the boss, but I was the least paid of everybody.
So you were the head of the entire team, but you were the one making the least amount of money. Yes. Wow. Okay, so let me backtrack a little bit. What do you think made you qualified to be the boss and to be in charge of that huge responsibility? What did they see in you?
Okay, like I told you, I was very responsible. I was the first one to go in, the last one to go out. I would never miss a day if I was sick or not. And I still had she was a baby back then, my daughter. I was a single mom. So I would manage to do everything, and I was responsible. I think it was the desire to keep the job that it's like when you had that. For me, it was a big opportunity that they were giving me. So I would take advantage of that, and I would take care of my work. And then on top of it, I'm the type of person that's always asking. I'm very curious. I always want to know why on the why. And so that if they would tell me something, I would always ask why. Why, and why does it work like that? Why is it like that? Why do we have to do this? Because you just have to understand the job that you're doing in order so you can perform good. Because if you're not understanding, you're just following orders. You don't even know why you're doing things. But if you understand why you're doing things, you make them better. And you can, and you always try to be a problem solver.
A problem solver.
Yeah, business owner doesn't need more problems. He needs help. And that's where I was. I would always be available. I would always be doing more, going that little extra mile. You would always have to do that. And you do have to be like a little intelligent to understand. And at that point, my boss, when I got that job, he didn't believe me that I knew English. He sent me to this customer, and he knew that customer didn't know English. And I'm in Spanish, so I had to speak my little English. So when I go back to the office, he said, so you passed up the test. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I sent you with him because I thought you didn't know English, even though you told me you knew English, because I would never speak English. So I started practicing more my English. And that's when I started, like, my vocabulary started expanding. So that gave me an opportunity with my language to learn a new business. I got to meet a lot of people, inspectors, contractors. That was my job, to speak to contractors, to speak to inspectors, to run the employees. Of course, with employees, I would speak Spanish.
Yes.
But that's how I started my construction experience.
So you mentioned that you were the boss supervising all these employees, that you were the one with the least amount of payment. And then now you were put in the spot in which you were forced to practice your second language, which is English. What do you think those three challenges meant for Yadira in that moment? Did you see them as challenges? How was your evaluation of that situation?
Well, like I told you, I was young. It's not like I was evaluating what was going on with my life. And like I told you, I love to work. So it wasn't like a challenge for me. I love to work. I think what it was a challenge, it was the language, I believe, and having to learn something that you don't know. For instance, I didn't know anything about computers, bookkeeping. In that, like I told you, when I started in that company, it was maybe they had like 10 employees. At the end, they had over 50 employees. So they were growing as I was growing with them. So I was learning, like, for instance, they didn't have a system in the office. It was just the wife doing the bookkeeping, the minor stuff for the company. So they bought this program, QuickBooks. They bought it, and it came with a huge book back then. It's not like you learn online or...
I remember that big book.
Okay, so it was a big book. So every day they bought it, and here you go. I was like, okay, what do I do? So
you became in charge of the accounting.
Exactly. On top of everything else, I still had to manage the office. And so I started every night. I would go home, take the book, read it, and then so next day I would go back to the office. Okay, I'm gonna try it. So that's how I learned it. So that's another, because I'm a bookkeeper too. That's another thing that I do now. Because of that, I acquired that.
What happened after you were managing all these people? You were managing the accounting and the bookkeeping. You were in charge of all the administrative stuff, including all the additional pieces of new people, new things going on. What happened after that, Yadira?
After 5 years working there and being the least paid, I had the bright idea to ask for a raise. And I asked for a raise.
How dare you?
Exactly. That's exactly what happened to me. How dare he said that that I didn't need a raise because I would do whatever I wanted in the office, that I was the next to him, that I was driving a truck, that I was a brand new truck that he provided for work, that I had a cell phone. He mentioned all these things that I got from the company. So he on top of that, he told me, and I know your lifestyle, so I know you don't need it.
All right.
And so I said, okay, then it's not that I need it. Maybe, I don't know. You never know. But I deserve it. I deserve it because I run this company. He mentioned it. Like, I was running his company. I didn't even have to ask him because I already knew, and he trusted me. And the reason why he trusted me is because I was doing things right. And I was, right. If I didn't know, I would ask. So,
what did you do at that point?
No, well, he fired me because I asked for asking. But not necessarily fired me, but he said that he wasn't going to give me a raise, that I was free to go. Well, and I left.
So you were let go?
Yeah, yes, but I took with me the experience. So now I had a career that I can start looking for another job. And that's exactly what I did. I went to work for other companies, but not doing the area of the construction. I stayed at the office. And I worked there like another, that was 5 years. And I worked there like another 5 more years in construction companies. 2 more construction companies, doing their bookkeeping. And it was a high salary because of that experience that I had. Wow. So I take it like an experience, like at school that I went for, and I acquired that. Eventually, after working for so many construction companies, I got the hang of it. So that's when I decided I can do it on my own.
Let's hold on that moment. How did the idea just even occur to you to say, I know enough about a construction company, I can start my own? How did that happen?
I will not take the whole credit, okay? Because it was my partner at that time. Mm-hmm. He was a construction worker, and he was the supervisor. So he knew everything on the outside of the construction. Okay. So we teamed up, and that's how we opened the construction company. I knew everything, how to run the construction company, and he knew how to run it out there.
Was that scary to think about owning your own business?
You know what? Honestly, no. No, because I'll tell you why. Because in every job, I took the company like if it was mine. So I already went through everything by the time I opened mine. It was to this other company, the last one I worked for. It was payroll day, Friday, and there's no money. And I'm like, what are we going to do? There's no money. That was every Friday with this company that I used to work for. And so I was so stressed all the time, like, what are we going to do? Who do I call to ask for money? It was all on me either way. So it's like, that's why I'm telling you, like, by that time I opened my company, I had already gone through everything because I would take it so personal. Every job that I would get, I would end up being the boss. I would always start at the bottom because of my legal status in the United States. That I would never ask or apply for to be the boss. I would always go in on the bottom, like at the beginning, and then I would always, like, within a year, I was always the boss. Because
of your hard work and because of your ethics.
Exactly. And because it's not like you go to work and it's like, oh, it's your problem. I would take it like personal. Like, I would do something. I would resolve problems. And that's why I always ended up because I would take it very personal. So by the time I opened my company, it's like, I've already gone through all that and I already knew what it was. So honestly, at that point, no.
How many years after you came to the U.S., that was 1986, you said, right?
Uh-huh.
How many years after was that you were opening your own business?
Well, that was in 2009. How many years?
Okay, so that's 23 years later.
And did you hear that was 2009 that I opened the company?
That was 2009. What was going on in 2009? The Great Recession.
It was that.
So, oh my God, did you even think about that when you started your own business?
No. It's just something that happened. We opened and everything started going down. So obviously it was very hard for us to get projects. So it didn't work out at the beginning. It worked out for 1 year because we already had another contract.
Yes.
After that contract, we had nothing. So I started to work and my business partner started to work as well. So we all went to work for somebody else. And I worked as a bookkeeper again. And eventually I had my other daughter and I was always working. I had 2 jobs and we still kept the company open. We didn't have any business, but we kept it open. And then one day I was like, I need to make the same amount of money, but less hours because I was two jobs. At one point, I had three jobs.
Wow.
And I couldn't, my oldest daughter was raising my kids. She was the mother of them. She would take him, drive them, take him to school, and I would just be the provider, basically. So it's like I needed to find another way of income. I was at that point and have the same income, but less hours. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? What do I know what to do? Right? At that point, I need to generate money, but less hours. So I'm like, I still have that company that it's open, it's not running. So I started bidding on projects.
Bidding for construction projects?
Yes, bidding for construction. Wow. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. Remember, I'm just living check by check. I had two jobs at that time. And I needed more time to spend with my kids. That's the whole reason why I started again with bidding. So I started bidding on projects and I landed a big project. So at that point, I don't have money to start a new project. I have money to support my family, but I don't have savings. I don't have nothing.
What type of money did you need at that point, Yadira, to get with the project going?
Okay. For starters, you need insurance. To get a contract with the government or any big agency, you need insurance. You need workers' comp, and you need down payments. You need and they're talking about over $3,000-$4,000 just on down payments.
Okay.
So when you get a project, you also need to finance the project. By finance, I mean you need payroll money for at least 2 months. Like every Friday.
For how many employees?
Minimum, I started with 5 employees, I believe. So I needed money for that. I needed money for the materials.
Yes.
I needed to rent equipment.
Wow.
So I didn't have any money. I wasn't planning on that. I just decided, okay, I'm going to start. I can admit that I'm more like very instantaneous. I really don't do a lot of planning, which I should. That's why I get in so much problems. But when you do a lot of planning, I see some people that they just plan and plan and plan, and they never do anything because they're always planning. And you always, as a business owner, you do have to take risk, and I'm good at that. You gotta be a risk taker because nothing is set on stone. And you're not going to go into a business knowing that you're getting so much and you're going to do like this and plan it all out. And it's going to come out like that. Things always come out different.
Even if you plan every bit, it's unlikely that the execution will come as planned, huh?
Exactly. So I like to take, it's not that I like, it's something that is given.
Well, let me ask you. Do you like it though? Do you enjoy taking the risks?
I do it. It's not that you like it, that I'm used to it. And I know if I don't risk it, like it's not gonna happen. And I'd rather make something happen than live in regret that I could have done it.
So you take that as an opportunity, as an investment, and you rather take the risk, and even if things don't go as planned, then just wonder what would have happened if I had taken it.
If you take the risk, you will find a solution. There's always a solution.
There's always a solution. I love that. Okay, so on that topic, you needed money, and for my audience that are out there thinking about starting their business, and they say, the reason why I haven't started is because I don't have money. Tell us how you went about that challenge. Not having money, you had a contract, and you needed to go. What did you do?
So I cut down my expenses, for starters. There's always friends and relatives. And remember, I don't come from this rich family. My friends are just like me. So there was this friend that she offered, I think she lent me like $7,000. And I'm like, that's good enough. That's perfect. So I opened accounts because you can open accounts where you have a charge account where they finance it for you until you get paid. And that's how it works in construction. You open accounts and they finance for you. So the materials were covered.
Okay.
Like I told you, I reduced my personal expenses, and that's how I got the down payments for the insurances.
Okay.
The payroll, which was the main one, that's the money I borrowed from a friend.
Wow.
So that's how I started. Like I mean, it's not like I don't plan. I do plan. I do the basic that, okay,
Yes.
how am I going to cover these? But I don't go into details of all the planning. But you do have to have your basic. You need money for payroll. Where am I going to get it from? It's not like it's going to come Friday and you don't have the money. Because that's one of the things that I've learned throughout the years and with the experience in other construction companies. I think the most important thing is to pay your employees.
Why is that so important, Yadira?
No, because I see in the construction, I mean, like I told you, people take advantage. Your bosses, take advantage, especially like undocumented people, they take advantage of you. I mean, we're in the still 2000s and they're still taking advantage of people that they're not legal in this country. And I would see that. I suffer that they take advantage. I had another employer that he wouldn't pay his employees just because no reason. He just didn't pay them. And people they kept working, hoping that they would get their money eventually. He would pay them whenever he wanted and feel like it. But for me, it's very important because work to me is sacred. And I believe it's sacred for everybody else. That's how you support their families. And honestly, to me, it's a huge responsibility because when I have employees, I don't see those employees as employees. I see their family. They have to support. Wow. They're counting on me to support their family, to supply the needs of their kids. And that to me is when I have employees, honestly, I see them like I have to support other kids. Of course, they're working for it. But they're like my kids. I take them in, I adopt them because it's like, I know they have to supply their needs. They have to pay the rent. Because I was once there. And I did, they depend on me. So for me, payroll money is one of the most important. I mean, honestly, I can tell you in all these years, maybe one Friday, it's not that I didn't have the money, that many Fridays I didn't have the money to pay payroll.
You found it.
But I would borrow money, I would sell stuff, I would do what I had to do so that I can pay my employees. But maybe I'm telling you, maybe in the past 15 years, maybe 2 Fridays, I didn't pay them, but I paid them on Monday.
At the beginning of the conversation, you talked about you wanting to have a home and you wishing for one. Can you tell us about the time in which you owned your own home?
Well, I've always been on rentals, and my wish was to have a home. And I always said, I believe in having goals. Without a goal, you don't have that drive that pushes you. So I always said, by the time my daughter, the oldest, that she goes to high school, I need to have a house. I need to own a house. And I said, I need to, not I want to. It's like, because like I told you, I always grew everywhere. So when you ask me, where are you from? It's like, I don't know, like from everywhere. And I would hear everybody else like, oh, I'm from this neighborhood, or we all went to this high school. And I wanted that for my kids. I already knew I didn't have that, but I did wanted that for my kids. So I always said, like, I need to have a house for my daughter, at least when she goes to high school, so she can go to the same high school. She can have the same friends in the same neighborhood. So that was my goal, to have a house by the time my daughter started high school.
How did you make it happen?
Oh, it's you want to hear? I'll tell you. It's a little longer, but I'll try to make it because it's, to me, it's very spiritual at the same time, because it's a combination of hard work and God's will. When you come from where I came from, low income, like owning a house is like one of those biggest dreams that it's everybody's house, but not yours. Everybody else can have it, but for some reason we can't have it because we're just not for that. So that was like a big, that I didn't even dare to dream. Like, it's not like, it wasn't for me to own a house. Not for what we come. My parents never owned a house. My family never owned a house. So to me, it was like, I don't think that's possible.
Not even possible.
Dare to dream of that. So I said, okay, but I have a construction company. We just do rock walls and concrete, but I know people in construction industry, and I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a land. And then eventually I'll build. Little by little, I'll start building. So I started saving money. Okay, there's, in a business, you get money, but it goes into the business. It's like, how are you going to save? You can't really pull out money because you're taxed. So I said, okay, what am I going to do? I got to generate more money now. If I want land, I got to make it. I need extra income. So I said, okay, I'm going to start advertising on the newspapers to do residential, because mainly we did commercial, big projects. So now I needed little projects so that I can get cash money and be able to save it. So I started advertising in the newspapers, magazines, so that we can get residential jobs. So I started saving money. I saved $10,000. I'm like, okay, now this will work for a down payment on a lot, right, on land. And I got my $10,000 and I found the land, and I'm like, it was $35,000 the land. And I'm like, well, I have $10,000. Maybe they'll give me a loan for that much, for another $25,000, right? So I went to the bank, and they're all like, no, we can't give you the money. You don't qualify. I was like, really? So and I had already chosen my land, right? And I'm like, oh my God. So I would drive every day to see the land, because that's your dream. You gotta always visualize your dream. So and it would motivate me. I have to do something about it. And then I would see it's not sold yet. It's not sold. So it was like for 2 months that after they denied the loan, was after 2 months. And then one day I submitted a payment for one of our contracts, but for some reason I I asked for more money. It was still part of the contract, but they wouldn't give it to you if you haven't done the work. So basically it was advanced, that money. And I didn't even know that I asked for the money in advance, but I would always pray to God that I wanted my house, and I wanted my house. And it was just the desire that you have in your heart that it doesn't go away. And for some reason that payment came up more than expected. So in the construction company, right? And I was able to have extra money to go buy myself that lot.
Wow. So your business, you were able to utilize the advantages of owning your own business to finance your house.
And I did everything. I got all the requirements. I went to the bank. They gave me the loan. But that was after 9 months after.
Did they say yes or did they say no?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, Yadira. They gave you the loan. So just for the audience, this is Yadira Chavez, who came to this country undocumented. That was eventually the bus with the lowest earnings from everybody else, who did not have the opportunity to have a career. So she chose to create her own path. And then this is the moment in which she is owning her own home. Wow.
In Sonoma Ranch, by the way.
In Sonoma Ranch, for the audience that is outside Las Cruces, Sonoma Ranch is one of the areas with the wealthiest people here in the community. So this was a big deal for Yadira. Yadira, I'm going to take a turn here. Were you expected to be successful?
No.
No. All right. Tell us about it.
It's always you want to, but I was just pushed. That life pushes you. And it's either you sit and look at everybody else do it, or you go along with them. You got to be a doer. I can't just be sitting and looking at everybody doing everything and me just looking at them. Like I told you, I always own 1 or 2 businesses, so you stay business. I became a realtor because I wanted to be an investor. So I started working on real estate so that I can start on investing and flipping houses. So I kind of combined the real estate with the construction experience that I had.
Yadira, in closing, what are some words of wisdom for the women out there considering launching their own business, but unsure of whether or not to do it? What are words of wisdom for them?
Yeah, I motivate them to do it. Definitely do it, because time passes and you see everybody else doing it, and then you'll regret it that you didn't do it. So go ahead and do it. You don't have to have that whole plan. Like I told you, you do have to be smart about where you're putting your money or where you're getting money from. And if you don't know, you always ask. That's my main thing. Ask. Find a place. Delegate work to others. If you're not good at math, then have somebody do the math for you. But we all have a talent. We all have a talent, and I think getting your talent to work towards you and everybody else, and have those other ones do what they're good at, but just focus on what you're good at and have everybody else do the rest. Acquire knowledge on what you're going to be doing on your business. Get informed. And like I told you, always ask. I guess that's my ask.
Awesome.
You'll be surprised. There's a lot of people that like to help. There's a lot of people that like to mentor because they see it like they're still working. And people like to help. So you just have to ask. Don't be afraid. Sometimes we do fail. That's a given. But sometimes you do succeed. And when you succeed, that's what counts. I mean, in order to make it where you want to be, I mean, you're going to fall 2-3 times. But the thing is that you have to get up again and do it again and do it better. And that helps you. Your failures will help you succeed. Because that's experience. That's the way I see it.
It's experience.
It's experience. I paid a lot of money where I wasn't supposed to. I lost a lot of money where I wasn't supposed to. But that gave me experience to not lose it again. So it's
perfect.
The way you have to see it, the way you want to see it. I mean, everything helps you for the good. And there's a lot of things that, I mean, sometimes you have to lose, and sometimes you will win. And as long as you don't give up, that's the main thing. Don't give up. Be persistent on your goal. And you're always going to get opinions. But if you're set to your goal, that's why I tell you, you got to have a goal. You got to be working for something. Something will motivate you. And no matter what people tell you, you're always set on that goal, and you're not going to get distracted.
Yadira, I have one last question. If you were to summarize this entire journey as a business owner in one word, what would that be?
Hard worker.
Hard worker.
Yeah. It's not easy, but it's doable. Like I said, I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And it's have motivation. Have something that motivates you, because you will need that. You will, when you're going through a hard time, it reminds you that you gotta stand up and try again. And that's what I've been doing. Because many times I've been down and I have to get it together, cry it out, rest for that day. Some days I just want to go home and get under the blankets, because that's what you feel like. I don't want to hear about nothing, especially if you have a problem that's stressing you and you know you got to resolve it. You have no idea how to resolve it. I just want to go home and get under my blankets. But I give myself that time because I actually do it.
Yadira, I thank you so much for being available to have this interview, for being vulnerable, for sharing the raw and genuine stories of your journey. And I thank my audience for listening. And I hope that this story helps you take your next step to purpose and profit. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity as well.
Thank you, Yadira.